If God's way of existing is something that is, as the psalmist says, too wonderful for us to grasp, well then how can we know anything about God? In the Catholic tradition, we have, broadly speaking, two ways of talking about God. We have metaphors and analogies. In metaphors, we use some physical thing to try to convey something true about God, even though what we say is literally false. That's sort of how metaphors work. If I sing, "I left my heart in San Francisco," it's not a statement about my cardiac condition, but about love. So literally false, but in a deeper sense true. So when we use metaphors for God, we're using something to say something true about God, even though what we say is false. So when we say that God is my shepherd, or that God is the rock of my salvation, or that God has a strong right arm, we're saying something untrue. God does not make a living herding sheep, or God is not a large mass of minerals, or God certainly doesn't have a well-developed bicep. But we're saying this in order to convey something that is true. God cares for us and is unchangingly firm and possessed of immense power. In analogies, we use some quality or perfection that we know from created things, such things as life or wisdom or goodness, and we apply them to God. We get our idea of these perfections from creatures, but we use them to say something about God that is true. And unlike metaphors, these analogies are literally true. In fact, they are more true of God than they are of us. God is perfect in life and wisdom and goodness, whereas we are living and wise and good only in a partial and fragmentary way, a way given to us by God in creation. Because such perfections are found in God in a way that so far outstrips what we can know from creatures, they give us only the barest glimpse of what it means for God to be living or wise or good. And yet they do tell us that God is living and wise and good because God is the creator of all life, of all wisdom, and of all goodness. In his famous Confessions, St. Augustine, at the end of the 4th century, addresses God and acknowledges how far God outstrips all that he has created, everything that our senses can take in. He says, "What do I love when I love you, what do I love? It is not physical beauty, nor temporal glory, nor the brightness of light dear to earthly eyes, nor the sweet melodies of all kinds of songs, nor gentle odor of flowers and ointments and perfumes, nor manna, nor honey, nor limbs welcoming the embraces of the flesh. It is not these that I love when I love my God. God is not simply a being like us, simply more powerful or more durable. God is beyond all beings. God is spirit and is not encountered in the realm of the physical. But while we cannot see or hear or taste or smell or touch God, we do have, Augustine says, something like spiritual senses, so that we can have a knowledge of God that is as direct or perhaps even more direct than the knowledge of physical things that our senses give us." Augustine writes, "Yet there is a light I love, and a food and a kind of embrace when I love my God, a light, voice, odor, food, embrace of my inner man, where my soul is floodlit by light which space cannot contain, where there is a sound that time cannot seize, where there is a perfume which no breeze disperses, where there is a taste for food no amount of eating can lessen, and where there is a bond of love that no satiety can part. That is what I love when I love my God." When Augustine speaks of a light which space cannot contain, or sound which time cannot seize, he suggests that the God who transcends space and time still gives himself to be known by us, known as the source of all created goods, and from which we can draw the metaphors and analogies by which we can haltingly speak of the God we love.